Imagine you have exactly 100 calories to spend. Would you choose one apple, a glass of apple juice, a handful of raisins, or a fruit smoothie? Which one keeps you full the longest? Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to use science and a bit of biological common sense to answer that exact question and solve what we call the fruit-sugar paradox.
Okay, so all of those options we just talked about, they're all derived from fruit, and they all have the exact same calorie count. But here's the thing. If your goal is to stay full, stay fueled, and actually support a healthy weight without totally demonizing your food, the biological impact of your choice is radically different. Visualizing the sheer volume difference between these choices is pretty wild, and it brilliantly illustrates why whole fruit gives you such incredible satiety. I mean, 100 calories of a whole apple takes up a lot of physical space in your stomach, right? It's packed with water and fiber. In stark contrast, a tiny, sad little handful of raisins is gone in seconds. It leaves you immediately searching the pantry for more, which makes it incredibly easy to accidentally overconsume.
Now, moving into our first main point, not all sugar is equal. Let's really understand the biology of your snack. To figure out why you might still be starving after eating empty fruit calories, we have to recognize how carbs actually affect us. And it really comes down to two crucial measurements. First, we have the glycemic index, or GI, which tracks the speed at which a food causes a spike in your blood sugar. And second is the glycemic load, or GL, which measures the total overall carbohydrate impact per serving. Think of these two metrics as your secret decoder rings to understanding your body's response to fruit.
Because there is a massive biological difference between natural sugars and added sugars. Added sugars, like the ones in cookies or your favorite soda, have absolutely no fiber. They hit your bloodstream instantly, causing this massive, rapid insulin spike. But natural fruit sugars? They're bound up in cellular fiber. That fibrous matrix acts like a biological brake pedal. It naturally slows down digestion and gives you a steady, manageable release of energy.
Which brings us to why the form matters: whole, liquid, and dried fruit. Even though natural fruit is inherently healthy, its physical form changes absolutely everything about how your body digests it. For example, data shows that whole foods like avocados, lemons, and berries offer incredibly low glycemic index and glycemic load scores. This means they deliver essential nutrients, vitamins, and a great feeling of fullness without causing a disruptive sugar rush. They are just highly supportive of a healthy diet.
But the real shocker happens when you change a fruit's form by dehydrating it. When the water is removed, the sugar becomes incredibly concentrated. To put that into perspective, 100 grams of dried apples packs a staggering 60 grams of sugar. Compare that to just 11 grams in the exact same weight of fresh apples. It's a huge difference.
And the exact same principle applies to liquids. Juicing completely strips away the protective fibrous materials, leaving you with this highly concentrated source of sugar that your body absorbs super rapidly. Blending fruit into a smoothie is slightly better. It mechanically breaks down the cell walls, but it does retain some of that fibrous material. So you get slightly better fullness and satiety than juice, but it's still way less than actually chewing whole fruit.
This brilliantly illustrates why researchers published in the British Medical Journal found such a stark contrast in health outcomes. While regular whole fruit consumption actually lowers disease risk, they found that a daily habit of drinking liquid fruit juice was associated with an increased risk of developing diabetes. The sugar is literally the same, but the form completely changes the biological consequence. Because liquid sugar is absorbed so rapidly without that fiber to slow it down, health guidelines strongly recommend limiting fruit juice consumption. If you are going to drink juice, they advise a strict maximum of 150 milliliters per day. And ideally, you want to consume that with the meal to help slow down that rapid sugar absorption.
Okay, let's transition into debunking some fruit weight myths, specifically navigating sugar crashes and hormones.
With a solid understanding of form and fiber, we can finally untangle a really common myth. Have you ever been told not to eat fruit at night? Or maybe you've eaten an apple as a mid-afternoon snack, only to find yourself ravenously hungry just 30 to 45 minutes later. You tried to make a healthy choice, but your stomach feels completely empty. Well, this is exactly why people falsely fear eating fruit before bed.
What's happening is a well-documented process called reactive hypoglycemia.
When you eat simple carbohydrates on an empty stomach, the rapid absorption causes your pancreas to release a massive insulin spike. That insulin does its job a little too well, clearing the sugar out so incredibly fast that your blood sugar actually drops below your starting baseline. Your body panics, tricks your brain into thinking it's starving, and boom, intense hunger returns. Beyond just insulin, we also have to talk about leptin. Leptin is absolutely crucial. It acts as your body's natural appetite control center. When things are working normally, leptin travels to your brain to signal that you have enough energy stored, effectively telling you, hey, it's time to stop eating.
But fascinating research from UF Health discovered a major catch when it comes to concentrated fruit sugar. They found that diets high in concentrated fructose can actually block leptin from entering the brain. This creates what they call silent leptin resistance. So you could be eating plenty of calories, but because the fructose is blocking the signal, your brain literally never gets the memo that you are full.
So let's talk about smart ways to eat fruit. We need some actionable habits for sustainable health.
Look, none of this means we should demonize fruit. High fruit consumption is actually a highly effective way to combat obesity. You just need a strategic approach. A great starting point is understanding the balance of sugars inside the fruit. If you know you're sensitive to sugar crashes, prioritize favorable fruits like berries, citrus, and stone fruits, where the fructose is balanced by glucose. You just want to be a bit more mindful when snacking alone on high fructose fruits like apples, pears, or especially dried fruits, which might trigger that intense hunger response.
Remember that when you are managing weight, carbohydrates and calories still matter. Portion sizes and carb density vary wildly depending on the fruit. For instance, a single banana carries 27 grams of carbohydrates, whereas a whole cup of strawberries contains only 7 grams. If you are tracking your intake, recognizing these differences gives you tremendous power over your daily choices.
To keep your blood sugar stable and your body properly fueled, just make a habit of choosing whole, fibrous fruit over liquids. Strictly monitor those dried fruit portions because, as we saw, they add up incredibly fast. Keep a focus on berries alongside your vegetables, and perhaps most importantly, utilize the power of macronutrient pairing. So what is macronutrient pairing? It's incredibly simple. Adding a handful of almonds or a piece of string cheese to your afternoon fruit snack provides the necessary dietary fat and protein to dramatically slow down digestion. This simple little combination completely prevents that reactive hypoglycemia crash we talked about, giving you sustained energy instead of a sudden, miserable wave of hunger. The crucial point I want to leave you with is to embrace the TruvoFit philosophy. Calories are simply biological information guiding our choices. They are not a reason for guilt or fear-based restriction. By looking at the actual data, like the high carb density in a banana versus strawberries, or the high sugar concentration in dried fruit, you can construct a diet that supports your weight goals without unnecessarily demonizing whole natural foods. Now that you understand the powerful biological differences between a glass of juice, a tiny box of raisins, and a whole apple paired with a handful of almonds, you hold the keys to better satiety and steady energy. So, armed with this information, what will your next sustainable snack choice be? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep staying curious.